Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of narcissistic abuse. I'm Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad, and thanks for tuning into this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Generally speaking, a narcissist is a person who has an excessive sense of how important they are. They demand and expect to be admired and praised by others and are limited in their capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. And guess what? Not all narcissists are made equal. Yes, that is true. Narcissism is a character trait that exists on a spectrum. A small amount of narcissism is healthy, and a person with an unhealthy level of narcissism may be called a narcissist. However, for the purposes of this podcast, a narcissist is a person who exhibits narcissistic traits and or a consistent pattern of maladaptive narcissistic behaviors. And now, with all of that out of the way, let me tell you that we have a survivor on this episode named Alex, and we'll get to his interview in a couple of minutes. There's a lot of good tidbits in this interview. Women and men will resonate with his story. But first, I just want to thank everyone in the Narcissist Apocalypse community for listening to the show and sharing your thoughts by email, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Our Facebook group is really hopping these days. And to all of you folks out there, I want to say a big hello because it has been rocking and rolling this week. I've been a little bit under the weather and I wasn't able to participate as much this week, but others were pretty active on there. And a reminder as well, for people that have not left us a review yet on whatever podcast service you use, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Castbox, etc., leave us a 5-star written review if possible. If you can't leave a written review, just leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out a lot with the rankings. Now, once again, I have to put a bit of a moratorium on our recordings because my vetting and recording call schedule is already booked to the end of November as is. So the quickest way to be part of our show is if you want to read a letter to your narcissist and be a part of our Letters to Our Narcissist compilation episode, we have a voicemail recorder on our website to record. Go to narcissistapocalypse.com. It's on the right side of the page. It's always floating around there. It's hard to miss. There's a button that says Send Voicemail. Press it, and away you'll go. It records up to 5 minutes, so you can record once, twice, 3 times, as many times as you need. We're accumulating these letters to have a volume 2 of our Letters to a Narcissist episode, so send those voicemails in. And if you want me or Melissa, my old pal Melissa, to read one of your letters instead, just send it to narcissistapocalypse@gmail.com. What else is going on? Our fundraiser for Layla is 1/4 of the way funded, so thanks to everyone that supported that fundraiser so far. We still have a little bit of a ways to go. Layla was a guest on our July 22nd episode. If you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it. Layla was married to a police officer who used his power and standing in society to abuse her with no fear of repercussion. Layla's trauma is deep, and she desperately needs trauma therapy, so we are raising money to help her get trauma therapy for a year, asking the community to help us out. You can go to our website, narcissistapocalypse.com, click on the fundraiser section, and let's help change Layla's life. As usual, I discuss what I've done socially this week. And guess what, everyone? I've been sick all week, so I've done nothing. For 3 days, I was pretty much fully horizontal on a couch, not feeling the greatest. Right now I'm about 90%, and I'll take it. And now, I'm just going to get out of my own way. Here is my interview with Alex, and I'll check back with everyone when it's all over. And with me on the line today, we have Alex. How are you, Alex?
Good, thanks.
All right, so I know a bunch of your story. We had a pre-call and everything, and now I am just going to get out of your way and give you the floor. So thank you once again for being here, and the floor is now yours.
All right, well, thanks, Chad. My story kind of starts about 15 years ago, really to the day, was the fall of 2014. Or, I'm sorry, 2004. I'm sorry. And where I met my soon-to-be ex-wife. We actually met. We were introduced by her sister, who worked with me, and my ex-wife at that time, we'll call her Deb, was actually engaged when I first met her, and but her sister kind of involuntarily set us up. She had us come and meet with a group of friends one evening, and when I met her, it was love at first sight. And I've told her that a million times, but she came in. I remember what she was wearing. She was just full of herself, but I was totally hooked from the first day I met with her. Everything we went well. We were with a group of friends, and after that, I pursued her, tried to get her number from her sister, and she kind of played hard to get. And I didn't have any problems meeting women, or I was in my mid-20s at that time and very social and things. So, but I kind of gave up on that idea. But as the holidays came closer, because that was in September, October, she moved up to the big city that I'm currently living in, and she asked me out, which I jumped on that very, very easily. So, long story short, we started dating kind of officially on New Year's, and it was wonderful, very intense. We literally saw each other every day, talked every day. It was just, she was perfect. The very cliche love, the whole love bombing type situation. But, and it quickly got rocky, very quickly. Again, we started dating early, like around New Year's. That was kind of when we said we officially started dating. And I remember on Valentine's Day, she wrote me a card, and it basically said something along the lines of, like, you're the love of my life. You came to in my world at the right time, and kind of referencing her getting out of a bad, quote unquote, bad relationship that her ex-fiance was cheating on her. And now I question that story, but that I was the love of her life, and I was a gift from God. And at that time, I felt like $1 million. It was wonderful. She was everything that I could ever ask for. Beautiful, but yet tomboyish a little bit, liked football and camping and outdoors, and it was just everything that I was ever wanting. So, now mind you, mid-February, everything was perfect, and literally, and a couple weeks went by, and she just ghosted me. And I was heartbroken. I just didn't understand. It was so intense relationship in a short period of time, but I was hook, line, and sinker. But she literally just, we didn't use that word ghosting back then, but she literally just disappeared. Now, I still worked with her sister, and so I would basically, hang out around their house. We were all friends and things like that, and I basically got her cornered, and I said, it was just, I didn't understand what was going on, because literally 2 weeks before that, I was a gift from God, so I just didn't understand. And she basically said, well, you just need to mature. We're just not compatible. And I was heartbroken. I just, how things went from 100 to 0 so quickly, I just didn't get it from that standpoint. So I backed off and still pursued her a little bit. And we then got back together, and I don't know how we did. I just don't remember why we started dating again. Like, she gave me a second chance or something, because nothing happened. We didn't argue or fight. It literally was, she just kind of tossed me. And from then on, that's where a lot of the devaluation started happening. And it was subtle, but as we progressed in our relationship, our dating relationship, that's when she would just make wisecracks or things to my family. And I remember my sister that summer, she was really concerned because she was charming, but it was like she was never impressed by me for some reason. And my sister warned me. She said, she just doesn't appreciate who you are. You're genuine, and something's not right, with this whole situation. So as we progress on, we broke up again that summer for I don't even know what reason. It was just on and off. But again, I was in absolute love with this person. And I chased her from the first day we met. And that continued on through our whole marriage and our relationship. That kind of set the tone. But we broke up for like a month, and we got back together. And I think the first major red flag for me was I just questioned, I just didn't understand why it was so difficult. Like, why is this relationship so difficult? Like, I love you, and I just didn't understand. Now, just a slight backstory, she had a really rough childhood, okay? And she literally moved, and this is confirmed, this is not a lie, this is coming from her family and things. Her parents were divorced. They moved 15 to 20 times in her life. Her mom literally abandoned her when she's a teen. Her dad moved over to another family and kind of had his own family, and this left her and her sisters, she has two other sisters, just to kind of fend for themselves. And that also kind of plays into it about giving her a get-out-of-jail-free card for bad behavior, because she had a quote-unquote bad childhood. And but someone who is a fixer and, thought I could fix her and things, I just gave her the benefit of the doubt, and, that was maybe the reason why we had such a hard time having a stable relationship. It's because anytime something was going well, it was sabotage. It was it was almost like she couldn't have stability and love and peace in her life. It just always had to be turmoil. There's always drama of some sort. Even though if you ask her, she would say, "I hate drama." But it was the complete opposite of that. It was just, you could never have peace. And that went on through our whole entire marriage. As we progressed in our relationship, I didn't understand why our relationship was so hard. I mean, you're just, your mid-20s, having a great time. I love this person. Why is it just so difficult? And going back to, her childhood, I wrote off a lot of this, the negative, bad behavior, I guess. Nothing too crazy yet, but off of just, she just wasn't able to have a stable relationship because she just was just not emotionally developed in that area of her life, and that from that standpoint. So, a red flag, I think, another one, there's many, but was when I asked her that question, she said, "Listen, I'm not going to commit to you unless we're getting married." And I said, "Well, what? That's such ass backwards to me. Like, don't you date, commit to each other? If that works, you get engaged, and then if that works, you get married, and that's how it's supposed to work." Now, I was never married before then, but and I said, "Well, that makes sense. Like, you don't value relationships with people unless they're in it for the long haul. So I kind of, even though it didn't make sense to me, I guess I kind of understood because of her lack of investment in people, because she moved all the time. She couldn't have established relationships with people. And so that got me thinking, and I said, I want to marry you. Like, I love you. I want to marry you, and so we got engaged, started to plan our wedding. I wanted a normal white wedding, nothing too elaborate, but we went to our parents. Our parents were kind of concerned because this wasn't a typical stable type relationship, and they weren't really going to help us out financially. So, she said, well, let's just elope. If they're not going to help us, let's elope. And I was like, are you sure about this? Most women want a white wedding and the picket fence. And she's like, no, let's just go to the justice of the peace to get married. Now, no one in my family has ever done that. And my family was mad, to say the least, because she did not want anyone to come. And I just didn't understand, like, why can't have our parents be there? I did what's the big, and she said, nope, I don't want them there. I don't want them to look at us. It's embarrassing. It was just weird, I guess, if that's the right word. But you want to make your wife happy, and if they're cool with it, you're cool with it, right? I was, just easygoing about it. So we got married within a couple months from getting engaged. My family was really questionable about, is this a good decision? Like, you guys haven't been stable, like, emotionally in a relationship. You just ran off and got married. This isn't typical for our family. It just wasn't, I guess, traditional or typical. So we got married. We did have a reception so all of our family could come together. And then, I was on cloud nine. One of the happiest days of my life. It was the first time in my life in which someone wanted to, have a long, be invested in me as a person. It's our stuff now. And that fairy tale was so important to me, to have a family, because my parents were divorced and they had their own things going on. And I think that hole that I was missing was getting filled by this illusion and this relationship. And I didn't want to give it up at all costs. Hence why my boundaries slowly were easily eroded, because I just didn't want to give up on that facade of this perfect, happy little family. So we get married rather quickly in the scheme of things. Within a year we met, so, which is kind of quick compared to most people that I know. We get married and we get pregnant with our first daughter really soon, like within a couple months of us getting married. During that time, that once we got married, the devaluation and all that kind of stuff started heavier. I was fat. I just didn't make enough money. That's where things started. And it was just, in front of my family and things, it'd be a joke, but it wasn't funny, I guess. And I would laugh it off. Now I'm no Johnny Bravo. I mean, I'm 5'7", 5'8", 180 to 190 pounds. So I'm not skinny, but I'm not obese either. But I just wasn't, I was always compared to guys on TV and people with six packs and things like that. And it quickly wore me down. And so but nothing crazy yet, just kind of side jabs and things throughout the first year or two of our marriage. After our second daughter was born, so this is about year 3 into our marriage, things got weird. I would wake up in the middle of the night and she would be gone. It could be a Wednesday evening or Wednesday night. I mean, just random. And I would call her cell phone and be like, where are you? Where in the heck are you at? And she would come home. And again, this would be like at 3 or 4 in the morning. And she said, I was at Walmart. And I'm like, who goes to Walmart? And now, mind you, she's like 5'2", 100 pounds. Who goes to Walmart at 4 in the morning for hours? Like, that doesn't make sense. And she would say, I just need to go and get away from you guys and blow off some steam, and you're being controlling. And, and you're like, well, being a stay-at-home mom is hard, and she was in school. I get it. I totally understand you need to blow off steam and things, but going to Walmart, walking around for 2 or 3 hours, that just doesn't make sense to me. To anybody, I would think. I'm not sure. But that's what she said she would do. And so what do? Well, you take your wife's word for it, even though you don't like it, and you care about her safety. And I even said, well, why don't you go when I get home from work? Why don't you go to Walmart at 7 at night instead of 3 in the morning? So that would happen on occasion. And you get accustomed to it because it just becomes like, well, that's just what she does, even though people thought it was weird. Like, that's not normal. What are you?
Did you mention that? Start mentioning this stuff to other people, like this type of behavior?
Yeah,
and what did they say?
Yeah, like my brothers, and they would say, like, everyone thought it was odd for sure. Like, that's why would she do that? Like, that's dangerous. Like, there's people who get human trafficked, doing that kind of stuff in the middle of the night and things. And it's just, well, that's what she does. And you can't tell her to do anything. You can't tell her, no, you can't do that. Because if you do, there's hell to pay. And she would just do it anyhow. She just didn't care, So, and you knew it. You knew that if you told her no, she's going to do it anyhow. And then you are codependent on her and that relationship. That, oh my gosh, what would happen if she leaves me? Because she would basically say, if you don't like it, leave.
So that's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say,
yeah.
Was there always this threat above you that if you ever put up a stink about anything, it was over?
Absolutely.
So once that,
absolutely,
so once that was put into place, at this point now going forward, you are too scared to say anything because you don't want this to end. You have been love bombed.
Absolutely.
Right now you are letting everything slide. I'm kind of shocked that no one in your family said she's cheating on you. As part of the thing. And, your weakness, if there's a biggest weakness, isn't technically her. And I think in my opinion, it's probably you have a family now. You are a family man. You love the family unit and everything it stands for. And that is what you want to protect at all costs because you believe in this thing that you never had. And now this person has you hook, line, and sinker. And she's the one that can steal it all away.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay,
I would jump off the Empire State Building to keep my family together, and I did. I emotionally did as we progress in the story. So that was another red flag. I just didn't make sense. This is like something that John Wayne Gacy, that serial killer, would do, or Ted Bundy, like he's just leaving in the middle of the night. And that's what I was feeling like the poor wife that the husband just leaves in the middle of the night and then gives her some bullshit story. And that's how I was feeling. But I had no proof. And I wasn't going to divorce my wife because I just had a hunch, if that makes sense. Like, the story doesn't make sense. I'm not going to give up everything, like you mentioned, because this doesn't make sense. I'm not divorcing my wife for that. or leaving her, or however you want to look at it. So we fast forward a little bit. A few months later, another huge red flag. And I think this would probably do most people in, but I didn't learn my lesson, I guess. But our daughter's 4th birthday party, we had a birthday party, all of our families together at our home. We are having a birthday party. We set up in the garage some tables because we had, just an overflow of people. So everyone's inside, celebrating the birthday, and Deb was out in the garage cleaning up, and I went out to help her. And as I was approaching the interior garage door, walking towards the garage, I hear my wife and another woman yelling, dropping F-bombs and cussing, and all I heard was, "Stay away from my husband." And this didn't come from my wife, this came from this other woman. And now the other woman was about our age at that time, so you're talking maybe 30 years old or so. And I walked out, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Mind you, this is a 4-year-old's birthday party. We're not like that. My family's not, this is something you'd see on Jerry Springer or something. It just doesn't make sense. Like, that's just not who we are as people. So I asked her, who was that? What the hell's going on out here? And now, luckily, no one inside our family heard anything that I know of that it was ever brought up. And she said, "Oh, that lady was lost and she was being mouthy," and I, told her off. And I was like, mind you, we're in the middle of a birthday party, so you gotta have to park this whole argument or to a later time. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it wasn't an appropriate time to start interrogating your wife. So I knew it was bullshit, though. My gut was like, that's not what that woman said. This is bullshit. What's going on? So they had the party. Everyone left. I didn't say anything that night. At that time, I was running. I was doing a lot of running because, again, I was very self-conscious. Because my wife thought I was fat, so I was, always trying to exercise and run, and which isn't a bad thing. I give her that credit, but it was for the wrong reasons. And as I was running through the neighborhood, I found that lady's car, and where she lived, because I remembered what the car looked like that was parked out front of her driveway. So the next day, I came home from work. And I went directly to this person's home, knocked on the door, and a woman came to the door, and I introduced myself, and I said, I think there's an issue between you and my wife, and I heard you say something. Do you think that your husband and my wife's having an affair or something? And mind you, like, I'm choked up. I'm half like, I barely can get the words out because it was just mind-blowing to me that I'm having this conversation. Like, it didn't seem real to me that I was having this conversation with some woman down the street. And sure enough, her husband, coincidentally, was in college in the same classes as my wife was. That's how they knew each other. And he was... So that was the connection. They knew each other, and when my wife would go out with their friends, he was part of this group. Now, I didn't know that until later. So she said, yes, I saw texts. This is inappropriate. And I said, do you have evidence or something? And she said, they're always talking, texting, and yes, I think they're cheating on each other. So I went to my wife and I said, what was that? What was the deal with the lady? Now I'm armed, mm-hmm. With the knowledge. So I feel more confident at this point. So I go to Deb, my wife, and I say, hey, what was that lady? What was it? What's going on? What's the story? And she just looks right at you and says, nothing. I don't know what the problem is. I said, I know exactly what the issue is. Tell me what's going on. And she would just look dead in your eye and just say, I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you think happened? Always kind of deflect and ask me questions. Like she's trying to figure out what I know. And I asked her probably 5 times, and I said, enough of the bullshit. This is who this person is. I know you and I basically just had to lay it all out. And she said, oh, well, that lady's just crazy. There's nothing going on. He's just a classmate. But I was like, if that was the case, why would you lie to me 5 times in a row? Why did I literally have to ask you 5 times before you to tell me that? So I was always the type that, if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to hide. If there's nothing on my cell phone that I don't care if anyone wants to look at, then I don't put a password on my cell phone. Like, it's here. You can look at it at any time. And so I basically called the lady's husband, and I said, don't ever talk to my wife again. Your wife, I don't know what's going on. Don't talk to her. Leave her alone. Your wife's on you like white on rice, and for the sake of your marriage and mine, don't ever talk to her again. And he agreed, and I think that ended it. I think that kind of ended it because, a scorned wife, I might have been an idiot, but she wasn't. She was on him, and if there was anything that came up, she would have came and probably told me from that standpoint. So that was the situation. So it gets worse. About 3 or 4 months later, again, I swept it under the rug. My emotional rug. I basically just let it go. It never got brought up again for obvious reasons. I just didn't want to believe.
You're protecting your family.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I never told anyone about it. I just swept it under the rug and just said, okay, it never really happened. Life goes on. We just go back to life's normal.
Did you feel embarrassed about it at the time, or did you feel embarrassed or shame about this kind of stuff later?
I think, what it was is protection. I was protecting her. If you go to your parents and tell them that story, they're going to say, "Oh gosh, she's cheating on you. She's trash." And I don't want someone to feel that about my wife, because like we're a team. We're a team, and if she's not a good person, then our family's not a good person. I think I just look at it as we're one, 2 people in one, or what have you. I don't know. That's cliche, but it was actually protection. I'm protecting her, from others people's judgment. Yeah. 3 or 4 months go by, and everything goes back to normal, like nothing happened. I get a call. This is what it gets just outrageous, basically. But I get a call from her sister, her younger sister, not the one I worked with, but a younger sister who is 10 years younger than me. So she was pretty young at this time, early 20s, and I was 30 at that time. But she's upset, crying, and I was like, what the heck's going on? Now, we're all very close because her younger sister actually lived with us for a while because her mom basically abandoned him, so we took her in. And so I was very close to her. So she's crying and saying that my wife had sex with her boyfriend. And that is something that is a conversation that you never think you're going to have with your sister-in-law. Like that is again, like I said, that is something you would see on Jerry Springer.
I was about to say that's Jerry
That's
Springer.
crazy.
It's Jerry Springer stuff.
There you go. And again, like this is, I'm thinking like this isn't conversations. It's almost like it's an outer body experience. Like my relation, like there's just like I think you detach from it. It's so stupid that to cope with it, you detach yourself from reality to cope with how crazy some of this stuff is, and that way you don't have to acknowledge the truth. You're not acknowledging reality, and it's just easier to do it that way. That was just, I think, the numbness of it all. So I'm petrified at this point because now there's a weird trend going on. You almost can't ignore it at this point. Well, which I thought. So I contacted her dad because now we've got two sisters that are in odds with each other, and I told her I told him what she was saying, and I said, I'm literally at the end of my ropes, and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is not what I'm brought up as, or this just isn't. I'm not used to something like this. I'm not sure how to handle this if I can, emotionally and mentally. So he said, well, and he said, I was concerned that, she has been cheating on you. And I have a lot of respect for her father. I love him very, very much. Even up to today, we have an excellent relationship. He knows, he just doesn't acknowledge it, acknowledge the dysfunction because he's just afraid that he'll lose that relationship because they'll cut him off mentally, and that's a whole different story. But so I started digging, and this time I wasn't going to let it go because this is just now it's affected multiple people of the family, and really, and I know we can cuss on here on the show. It's fucked up. Okay, yeah. This is not normal behavior. So. How I asked her, what happened, and she said, I don't know. He told me. I think he was just saying it to be mean, but was it MySpace? Is that what it was years ago? It was kind of after that was like pre-Facebook, but he put it on MySpace. I think it was called MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace.
He put it on his MySpace. I don't remember what it was, board or what have you, that he did that. He publicly put that on there, and that he did that. Now, I'm trying to rationalize, like, okay, maybe he's just doing it to be mean. Maybe he's crazy, and he's putting it on there just to hurt my sister-in-law, and, just who knows, because I didn't know this guy at all. I've never met him. My wife that I knew never met him, so this can't be true. We've never even seen this person before. So I obviously confront her again and ask her, like, what the hell's going on? And she basically, after some prodding, basically said, well, one night, when we went out, I went back to his house with another girl, and we got in a hot tub and hung out and, late at night after the bar closed. And that alone was enough for me to really want to just throw in the towel. But again, I guess it wasn't enough for me to just blow up my family over because I didn't do it. And I was like, what mother, we had 2 kids at the time, what mother of 2 kids would go back to your sister's boyfriend's house and get in a hot tub with him at 4 a.m, and you didn't happen to, like, call your sister or let your sister know you did that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I would, if I did that to my brother's girlfriend, I would, like, text him or call him and say, hey, I'm over at your whatever's house, won't you join us? But that didn't happen, so it just didn't make sense at all. And the fact that you were in a hot tub at 4 a.m, to me, was cheating anyhow. because I'm home with the kids, you're out partying, and I would never in my life put myself in that kind of a situation. I wouldn't even think about doing something like that. So, and you know what? Somehow she just smoothed it over, and I just swept it under the proverbial emotional rug. I don't know how. I don't remember what was said, but I just literally said, okay, well, as long as they, I guess you just kind of take her word for it, and you just move on. And just not be. At that time, I just wasn't being real with my situation.
So, yeah. So at this time, are you a zombie of sorts? You've suppressed all of your feelings. You've pushed everything down, maybe.
Very deep.
Yeah, you're detached from situations and all of this. You say you're having like an outer body experience, like you're watching it all. Did you feel
Absolutely,
like you were, that this is all some sort of bad movie?
Yes, I did. Now it got that feeling. Was it absolutely that feeling happened later in the story? But it was almost like I was very good. That's just how I coped. As I grew up, I didn't have anyone that was emotionally there for me. My parents were there; they were divorced, but I didn't have anyone there emotionally for me. Because they were preoccupied with other things and they were divorced, and so the way you handle things, you handled it like a man. You just bottled it up and you just kind of go on your day, and you didn't have anyone to come home and really cry to. So I was pretty good at just pushing stuff down, and again, the fact that obviously wasn't the pain that I felt talking and being faced with just quote-unquote fucked up stuff, right? That was not enough for me to do something about. The thought of leaving or blowing up my family was more painful than what I was going through, and that's how I was like measuring. And I would rather deal with this pain, because the pain that I'll experience being divorced and not having a marriage. That seems to me more painful, so I didn't take any action at all.
Okay.
And
fair.
And so that's how I would weigh it out. Not more subconsciously, I think. It just it wasn't. That's how I measured my emotional life. I think from that standpoint. So and. That really put a rift in the family. But her family, they never really talked about anything or ever kept anyone accountable. They just kind of did their own thing, and it was kind of swept under the rug as well with them, and life goes on. Now, it was funny because over the holidays, that story was brought up again by my young sister-in-law. Now, even though she's married for 4 or 5 years now to a wonderful guy, and they have a little baby now, but she brought that up again. So honestly, that obviously hit very close to home, and I don't think she fully believes that, her sister's side of that story, and, from that standpoint. But, so we fast forward a couple more years. I 3 years maybe go by, and during that time, it was really very much the same. Just you never felt like you were good enough. And I remember during that time, she said, my friends can't believe I married someone that looks like you. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? They're like, they were just surprised that I married someone that looked like you. Like insinuating I was ugly or something. I'm like, what the hell? And very superficial, and and then like would throw it in my face that I just wasn't attractive enough anymore. And when you do that over years, and I was super confident when we first met, but it really just slowly sands you down. Not overnight, but it just slowly erodes you down. And then, you get to a point where that like it was a joke that she was so beautiful and I was so ugly. And you felt that, you felt like, oh, I'm so lucky to have just a tiny piece of this woman's life, and I'll do whatever I can just to get that crumb because I'm just not worthy enough. And it absolutely worked. It absolutely did for me. And so fast forward a little bit, we got to, I don't know, 3 years later, I think, had one of her birthdays. She comes to my office. At that time, we started a company together. We were partners in a real estate company together, and she came to the office and said, "Hey," now mind you, she's still in school again. She's been in school for years, and everyone she hangs out with are like 20, 21-year-olds. So we're in our 30s, and she hangs out with, like, people that can't even drink. And it just was weird. It was just like, that's where her emotional brain was like a 20-year-old, if that makes sense. And that's, I think that's why it got progressively worse. As you grow older emotionally, this person's still a teenager, if that makes sense. And it might be just the trauma that was in their life, but that was just the reality of it. And so she, during that time, like, she's hanging out with 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, we're 30s, and like with kids. We had 3 kids at that time, and it was just weird. Like, I don't have anything in common with a 21-year-old at all, but that's just who she hung out with, these college friends, these college people. So she did approach me after one of her birthdays, the day after, and she said, "I want to get divorced." I wasn't surprised. I really wasn't. I was really unhappy. And as we kind of progressed through the summer, that happened. It all happened in January. And we got to the summer, I was feeling much more confident. Now, mind you, we're still playing house, but she's allowed to do whatever she wants. And I was standing there with my, doing nothing, just allowing her to do whatever, and just absolutely not taking control of my life, basically. Just absolutely felt like I had no control. But as I went through therapy, it helped me get my confidence back, So basically, I remember one night, it was in early summer, I basically said, "Listen, like, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm not putting myself in this situation anymore. It's not healthy. It's not good for our kids," because I wasn't a good father. Okay, you just don't have the emotional energy to take care of the kids. And and when I did that, she raged. She called me every name. Even I remember she called me, "You're a fucking horrible father," which that's the lowest blow you can say to a man, or a bad father. But it was, what was happening was I was ruining her plan, her methodical, big grand scheme. Like, I need to use you for finances, not emotional love. It was just the finances, and now you're jeopardizing my plan, and once I did that, things changed. And I can't explain. And I think what it was is, I don't know if it was she gained more respect for me at that time, or she decided that maybe this isn't worth it. I had my fun. Maybe I need to get my shit back together again because he's on his way out. And, I always use that love bomb. But, and all of a sudden, like, things changed quickly. Like, he's leaving. I better, like, get my shit back together and get this relationship on track. because, the big grand scheme of things is falling apart. Yeah. So I questioned, I kind of questioned her motives now at that time, but, so I did move out. I stayed there and, because it quickly got better. And I thought because she just respected me now and she realized what she was losing and things just got better. That's what I was thinking and maybe hoping, from that standpoint. And I remember it was very much controlling, even in our finances, but I remember that fall I was doing something. Oh, I think I went to work, and when I came home, my bed that I bought myself because I didn't want to sleep on the couch anymore, right, was taken from our spare bedroom and put into our master bedroom. And I was like, what the hell? Now mind you, inside I was so happy because I was like, oh great, now we're going to sleep together again, in the same bedroom. But then I was like, wait a minute, why did she get to dictate our relationship? It was almost like it was a symbol. Like she said, it was basically like her saying, okay, you're worthy enough. We're going to start sleeping in the same bed now. And she decided that. There was no conversation. And when I came home, I said, why is my bed in here? And she said, oh, you can start sleeping in the same room as me now. That was it. And then I was kind of sitting there, and she takes my wedding ring that she had and put it on my finger like she was marrying me again. Never said anything. It was just like, you're worthy enough now to be my husband again. And now, again, I was very happy and excited this was happening, but it was dysfunctional. And I knew, this is not right. This is kind of fucked up. This control is just off. It's just off. And but I was happy because, now my family's back again, right? I got my ring on. That's a symbol of love. And now we're going to be a family again. We got over the 7, 8, 9, 10 inch, or whatever you call that itch, in your marriage. Mm-hmm. And this is going to work. Then the clock hit 2019. And it was almost like something mentally, or again, when I went back to the pathological or something like that, it was almost like, we're in 2019. I'm flipping the switch, and I got to go this direction now. There was no transition. There wasn't any arguing. There wasn't any fighting. There wasn't any issues that came up. It was literally the first week after New Year's. She came to me and said, hey, I got to work on myself this year. I'm just, I just need to, worry about, having a social life. And, I just want to educate myself more. And, I'm just not going to be able to put our marriage first or something along that lines. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Put our marriage for what's going on here? Literally, you're coming off a high of just everything was wonderful, and all my family and we all was just so happy. And I said, "Are you wanting to get divorced?" Because if a few years before that's what happened. It was right after New Year's. It was almost like a New Year's resolution, and I was thinking in my mind, "Oh shit, here we go again." This is some sort of New Year's resolution. My life, and this isn't going to work out now, or something like. That's what I was. My insecurities were. Now, if that was fair or not, I'm not sure. So I said, "Well, what do you need? I'm here to support you, like a husband would do. What do you need?" And she's like, "Well, maybe I want to go back to school again." I'm like, well, that's okay, but what do you want to do? And, and I'm just I'm just trying to help her and support her in any way. So then she literally, just a week after New Year's, again, everything was really, really good. Probably the best in our marriage when it comes to like that stretch. She just said, well, I'm just going to go to the office and work more and just, whatever. So at that time, she said, she needed to go and, spend more time with her friends and socialize, which that concerned me when she was saying that, because that's like, she could anyhow. I never kept her from that. But, that was kind of her past, though. And that made me really concerned. Literally just a week after New Year's, she started going to the office 2 or 3 times a week, and then going out with her friends as well. So literally 3 to 5 times a week, she was not home at night. I would stay home, take care of the kids, get them to bed, get them to school, what have you. And
just to clarify for 1 second, she is working with you at your office. You have a business together, so it's normal she can go to the office. Okay.
Yeah, that was totally fine. That was okay. But she wanted to work more for whatever reason. Not because you needed to or she had anything to do. It was just, as I found out, it was just an excuse. It was an excuse to leave the house. And but for her to go to the office in the evening time, that was okay. That was normal, within reason, but that might be like once every week or two. But this was like 2 or 3 times a week. And then the other days I'm going out with my friends. And literally it went from, hi, I'm in my 40s with 4 kids, and you're kind of acting like a 20-year-old again. What the hell's going on? Like, I thought we were kind of over this. Like, when you're getting your, as you know, right, when you're just kind of like, you're kind of over going out and partying all the time. Like, what happened? It was almost like a switch flipped. So that progressed through January, and I was like, well, and I'm getting concerned because I'm just going off a past experience, and I was getting concerned, and obviously the things she was saying, I'm not focusing on our marriage right now, and our family. That's what she would say, and I'm like, what does that mean? Well, why wouldn't you? Like, well, you can do both. I'm here to support you, and that went through January, and as I was getting frustrated, I would just say, well, no, wait a minute, Alex. Like, we had a wonderful holidays. Like, don't freak out. You're being a little, you're not being confident. Give her space, what have you. Don't, like, it was just, I think, triggers. It was making me self-conscious with this whole thing. Because, again, marriage, my wife, and the kids are everything. So anything that might jeopardize it, I'm going to fight, because that's what's important to me. So January went here and by, and February, same behavior. We take a family trip. All of our family gets together, and we meet for a hotel for the weekend, and we have there's an indoor pool, and all the young, the grandkids, they play, and we have a weekend of it. 3 or 4 days before we were leaving on our trip, Deb said, "I'm not going." And I was like, "What are you talking about? We leave in 3 or 4 days. What do you mean? Why aren't you going?" And well, your sister-in-laws hate me, and I'm not going to go out there and put myself in that kind of situation because they hate me. And I'm like, listen, then just hang out with me. And she got along with my brothers pretty well. I'm like, just hang out with us. And like, I don't want to go out there without you. It's a family thing, right? It's, we getting away together as a family. no, I'm not doing it. You can't make me. I'm not going. So I call my family and tell them what's going on, that she's not coming and why. And, boy, that really put a rift in my family. What is she talking about? Like, that's not fair. Like, we have been getting along very well. Like, and my brother, I remember on the phone, said, "This isn't right. Something's up, Alex. You gotta. This is not true. Like, she's feeding you a lot of shit. You need to figure out what's going on because this doesn't make sense." And I was like, no. They don't like her. I know they don't. This is, that's true. They don't like her. And if she doesn't want to, and I was defending her. Because that's my job, as a husband. You defend your wife, your spouse. And he's just like, listen, this doesn't make sense, and I was like, well, this is our reality. Maybe we just can't do this trip anymore. Or I'm going to have to go by myself with the kids or something. And he's like, okay, whatever. So we leave. We leave and go on the trip, just me, and I take all the kids with me. We have 4 kids at this time. I think I forgot the 4th. Throw it in there over those years. So I take all the kids by myself, and we drive all the way out to the resort thing, and we have a good weekend. But I just knew something's not right. You just, all the red. I think the biggest advice I can give men or women, and I don't care what religion you believe in or what have you, but your intuition, your gut intuition, you have to follow that. And mine was suppressed for so long because I was just manipulated and thought that I was crazy, the gaslighting and things. And I really didn't follow my gut, my intuition, even though they told me, that things were wrong. I just ignored it. So if your gut's telling you something, just get the hell out of there. I think that's probably one of the biggest advice that I can give. So when I get home from the trip, a couple days went by, and I started getting crazy. To be fair, my intuition was screaming. I mean, there was fireworks and everything else flying out of my gut. I couldn't flares, SOS. I mean, I couldn't ignore it anymore. There's something not right. This doesn't make sense. People, don't do this. So I started snooping around. Not proud, but I did. There's just something I was missing.
Your gut told you something, and at this point, I think, based upon the history here, as far as trust goes, you had all the right in the world to do whatever you're about to say. I don't feel, I think I did say I feel embarrassed about it, but I don't, what word do I want to say? I'm glad I did, I guess, from that standpoint. But as I started snooping around, I went into her closet, and I found some things that were sexual related, okay? And some of it that were geared towards men. And those items were not something that I use, okay? Mm-hmm. And I knew, oh, shit, I was in trouble. Something's going on. So I call her, and she comes home. And I meet her outside because the kids, I couldn't hold it in. I couldn't bottle it up anymore. The kids were inside. I sat in her car, and I said, listen, we're all grown adults, okay? Are you cheating on me? And I said, listen, just tell me straight. We can do this peacefully. If you just don't want to be married anymore, we can work it out. Just be straight with me. And it was and kind of going forward, she made me feel horrible to ask that question. How dare you? How dare you think that I would do something like that to you? Who would ever go to their wife and ask them that? How, what kind of
horrible husband are you? And you felt horrible having that conversation with your wife. And I believed it. I was like, my God, yeah, why would I, like, even though I have evidence, like, it's pretty obvious evidence here, like, and I'm like, well, what is that? And she was like, oh, that was for you. And I was like, but they were you. And like, I don't know how. I was so weak. I was just such a weak person. I thought I was much stronger, but with her, somehow she talked herself out of it. Even though I knew it was bullshit, I just, again...
Well, you weren't weak. Your defenses were just down. Like, it's not being weak. Yeah, it's just absolutely. That she just knew exactly where to poke.
Yeah, that's true. And we'll get to a defining moment when she used that, which is, I think, was probably one of the most despicable parts of it all. So I knew that she's cheating on me. That story is so bullshit. And she would just say, well, who told you that? Why are you saying that? What do you know? And I just say, hey, listen, I found this stuff. And like, oh, that was free. I'm like, it's used. What are you talking about? And like, oh no, that's not. And somehow she got out of that conversation without me throwing her shit out the front door. I don't know. I don't know why. But I was just so scared. I was just so scared at that point. And that's where I got to it. You talking about like the walking zombie. There you go. And and I'm going to say this. I don't need any sympathy or anything. But going forward in that mid-February, for the next month and a half, when I was done. There was days that I didn't sleep, like not even 30 minutes. Like I don't know how I functioned. I don't know, because she was going out more and more at that point in time. Like it was getting so obvious. I couldn't ignore it. Even someone who was an idiot like me, I couldn't ignore the obvious. And this was something I was embarrassed to doing, but not now. It was the best money I've ever spent. But the next day I went to a private investigator, and I said, listen, and I was embarrassed. I remember pulling up to their office, and I parked way down, down the parking lot, and I like snuck around the building so no one would see me. It was embarrassing. Like my life is so tragic that I have to do this, because that's not what normal people, in my mind, like this isn't something that people should be doing, right? And but I met with a private investigator, and I said, hey, listen, there's something going wrong. I need I need you to follow her to see, because she's not coming home at night. He's like, I can tell you this: when you get to a point where you have to do that, you already know the truth. And I think most people would have thrown in the towel way before this. But for some reason, it just...
You needed that you needed the one last piece. You needed to see it in your own eyes.
Yes, I did. And that was the thing that put me over the hump. But yet it is burned in my mind forever. But I needed it. I needed that one last piece, that one last fix. I don't know what I was looking for necessarily, but because I already knew the truth. I already knew what the answer was. I literally just had to see it for myself. So they put a tracker on her car, and literally the first day they follow her in the morning, which made it really despicable, because she would say, well, I need to go to the library and do some studying or something like that. And she said, can you watch our son and pick him up from school to cover for me? Because I need to work on this stuff and study. And again, I'm like, of course, honey, I'm willing to help out in any way I can. Literally, instead of going to the library, she goes down to some guy's house. Okay. And it's like, really? Like it didn't even take them 30 minutes from the day they started until, what have you. Mm-hmm. But then I wasn't convinced. Like, I still wasn't convinced. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's someone that she needs to study with. And I still wouldn't accept it. I just wouldn't accept reality. I was just so numb and just delusional. I think, I wouldn't accept reality. So
what got you out of that?
Well, what happened was they continued to follow her through that week, and the thing that made it scary was I would have been okay, and this sounds really sad, but I would have been okay if it was just the one person, which turned out to be like a 23-year-old kid. Now, we're 40, and he's a 23-year-old kid. And what would have made it feel better would have been if it was just one. But it wasn't. There was that kid, and then they followed her. At night, she would go to different bars, almost like, I don't know, it was almost like it was very pathological, like she was headhunting or hunting down prey, or I don't know how to explain it, but it was really odd. Like she would go to different bars and meet another guy in the same night. Like, it was something that I wouldn't even do when I was 21 and single. Like, she was just had men lined up, multiple, and going to different places to meet them. And so now I know. And I said, just keep on following her for another week, just so I can get hard evidence or whatever it is, because now I know it's over. I had to physically see it with my own eyes, which was the worst thing I should have done emotionally, but I had to that was the piece I was missing. And, again, she would lie about where she was and what she was doing, who she was with, and she would say, I'm over here at this friend's, and she obviously wasn't, because we followed her I didn't. I was at home with the kids, right, and they're following her at 3 or 4 and 5 in the morning. But one of the most despicable things was that week she came to me and said, hey, I'm going on a trip. And now, mind you, she doesn't know that I know at this point in time. And that was the worst, because no one knew what I knew except me and this private investigator group. And I had to fake it. I was faking it the whole time because I didn't want her to know, because I was getting my ducks in a row to get the hell out of there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was just planning my I don't know what, I was just planning to, because I knew that if I didn't have my ducks in a row, she would get me somehow, and I had to be prepared. I was prepared for my escape, if that's the right word.
Not just prepared for your escape, that if you were going to be going through a divorce, that you were going to have all the evidence possible at your your dispense.
Because I knew how good. Yes, right, exactly, Brandon. I mean, I knew how good she was, lying, twisting the truth. It would be so crazy. She might say, "Oh, that's not me. That's my twin sister that you never met." I mean, that's how much she would stretch the truth and lie about everything. But the week of my birthday, she comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm going on a trip." Now, my birthday is on a Thursday, and she comes to me on a Monday, Tuesday, and I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? We just found out you have a $14,000 credit card, and you want to go on a trip? No way, you're crazy." Now, mind you, I know what she's doing. I know she's cheating on me with multiple guys at this point in time. It's just scary, but I'm faking it the whole time. I'm just faking it. She has no idea that I know. And honestly, I don't think she would even care, from that standpoint. I said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "Oh, I'm going to Puerto Rico." And I'm like, "What? Why? With who?" "Oh, I'm going by myself." because, and this is where it got just despicable, was she said, you are putting me under so much stress, and you're just stressing me out and the kids. I just have to get away for a while. And I was like, no, you're not going to Puerto Rico. No, absolutely not. No way. That is crazy. You're not going. And I'll never forget, she looked at me and said, if you want me to be a good wife and a good mother, don't you? I need to go on this trip so I can be a good wife and mother for you. And I was like, because she knew that was my weakness. She knew that I would say, of course I want you to be a good mom. Of course I want you to be a good mother. She knew that was my Achilles heel. And I was like, yes, of course, but why would you? That's not safe. Can't you go to, like, Florida? Why do you have to go out of the country to do this, right? And she just, that's the way, and she told all of her family. That just really pissed me off, because I know she's cheating on me at this time. She tells all of her family how stressed out she is. She told her she's having a breakdown. I'm putting all this pressure on her, and really painted me like I was some sort of controlling man, like emotionally abusive, just absolutely projecting the bullshit that she was doing onto me. And then telling her family about it. And I remember her sisters were like, oh, yeah, you do. You need to get away. Your marriage is not working out. Like, I don't know how you deal with him. And I was just like, I felt so helpless because it was the complete opposite, and I couldn't say anything, and they probably wouldn't even believe me anyhow, right? So the week of my birthday, she packs up to fly to Puerto Rico. And so, again, I'm snooping, and I'm going through her suitcase. Now, the night before she leaves for Puerto Rico for a week, leaving me in the business and the kids to fend for herself, she gave me like 4 or 5 day notice she was leaving. She went out. So instead of staying home with our family the night before she left, she leaves to go out and parties with her friends. And again, she went to a couple different bars and met up with one guy and, making out and the whole night. She leaves that and goes down to that 22-year-old's house, comes back at 5 in the morning. So she, most people before you leave on a trip, you want to spend time with your family because you're gone for a week. And, but not her. No, she left me and the kids high and dry, and she went out and had the time of her life. And I knew at that point in time, like, she has no interest in our family, or I'm projecting my good nature and onto her, and I'm realizing that this person is bad, maybe even dangerous. We've never had any physical issues in our relationship, but it was all emotional and mental. But this person's bad. Like, there's something really, really dark about this person that I've been married to for 15 fucking years. And there was a lot of red flags, but I just didn't notice it. So she, as I go through her suitcase, I find sexual-oriented things in her bag, and I'm thinking, great. She's not going down there to get away from us, because there was a part of me was hoping that she was in this dark point of her life. She was going to get away to try to reevaluate her life to see what she wants. And I was kind of hoping that's what she was doing, is maybe to get out of town, reevaluate what she's been doing, and having some remorse. Maybe I was hoping that she would have some remorse, and then she would come home, and then, we could work it out somehow. So she packs up and leaves. I had the private investigators follow her, and she didn't bring anyone with her on her trip, as she mentioned, but she met another guy on the trip. So now this is a third guy, literally within a week and a half. And this is getting insane. Like this, for me to talk about this, it doesn't even seem real. But it's embarrassing. I don't want to say it's embarrassing anymore. It was just my life. It's true. I wish it wasn't, but that was my life. So as she's gone, I met attorneys. I had all the divorce stuff ready to go. Like I closed out bank accounts. So she's overseas. I'm literally, oh gosh, what a horrible time. I was doing everything to line myself up so when she got off the plane, I could hit abort, basically. And her father called me very upset. He's like, why would you allow your wife to go to Puerto Rico? And I said, well, why do you think? Now, I couldn't tell him. I didn't tell him what was going on, but I just got him thinking, And I said, I didn't want her to go. She's the one. She demanded to go. And her father was really upset with her and me, that I would allow her to go. Like I can control another adult, like I guess I was supposed to lock her in a bedroom or something. I'm not sure what I was supposed to do. So when she got off the plane a week later, had a wonderful trip, obviously, as well. She had a wonderful trip, she said. Had all these stories and photos. That night I had her parents take the kids because I said I have to have a talk with her, a very serious talk, and I do not want the children in the house. I don't want them in the same zip code because I was a little concerned now what would happen. Again, we never had anything physical in our relationship, but I was taking an approach. The pain, I guess what I was alluding to earlier, the pain of what I was going through, the infidelity and the lying and the finances, now has surpassed the pain of me being alone. And that was, and what really put me over the top to say, we're done is our children, because I did not want our children to grow up to think that was suitable behavior. I didn't want my son to look at his father. Maybe this is an ego thing, but I didn't want him to look at his dad and say, why would you? I didn't want them to do that to their spouse and think it's okay. It's not okay behavior. And I didn't want to model that to them, and I wanted that cycle to be broken because that was kind of the issue with her family on her mom's side. There was a string of just emotional, psychological issues that the women have had, and I was done with it. And I did not want that cycle to continue in our family. And that's what really, put me over the edge. So when she got home, I confronted her, and she called me every word, every cuss word. I mean, just how dare you, fuck you, to like, what a shitty husband, like you're controlling. I literally get home for one day and you do this to me, fuck you. And I was crying again like a baby. And I'm like, I'm not debating this. You are. I have proof. What proof do you have? Like, you've been following me? How dare you? You're a stalker. You're fucking crazy. And I'm on my knees. I don't think I did literally, but emotionally begging her. This is our family. I am literally 99% out the door. And again, and I was thinking like I was probably a mess. I mean, if you looked at me, I probably was a mess. I'm a grown man. I'm crying and like, our lives are on the line here. And instead of like having any empathy or any remorse, she did the complete opposite. She literally set me on fire to keep herself warm, and I was just like, if you leave, and she's like packing her stuff, putting on her shoes, because she's leaving. She doesn't want to have this conversation, right? Because I've caught her, in a trap, basically, and she So she basically, I said, if you walk out the door, if you leave and you don't have this conversation, I'm done. I'm done. And she basically said, fuck you, I'm out of here. And she just grabbed some stuff and left. And I, when that door shut, I knew, like, it's done. Like, that was D-Day for me. And so I gathered up my belongings, and I went over to my brother's house that night. And and at this time I was holding everything in, and I didn't talk to anyone about it. And when I went to his house, he was like, what the hell are you doing here? You know, because now it's like 9 at night, maybe. And he's like, what's going on? Why are you here? Because I don't normally just pop in his house at 9 o'clock at night. And I just break down and I cry. But I actually slept that night. That was probably the first time I slept in about three months. Like, literally slept more than an hour or two.
It was relief.
And it was a huge relief. Absolutely a huge relief.
So now that it's over, then where are you now, and where are you in the healing process?
Well, a few days went by, and basically we talked. I told her that, you know, she needs to leave. We cannot be together because you're not gonna. For her to be present. You know, obviously we have 4 kids. We're not going no contact, but I was like, you cannot be here. You got to leave. So we've been separated. I got a lot of grief because I didn't help her pack. I can tell you, from that standpoint. But she did move out, and the day that she moved out was another relief. So there was, So when she moved out and she wasn't in front of me parading around in her, her underwear, you know what I'm saying? Like, just act like, even though she was going out partying that whole time between the time she got moved out, it was horrible. I mean, she just acted like, okay, I'm single now. And she would go out whenever she wanted. I stayed home with the kids. And she just, every night she would go and spend the night. Now she was not coming home. She just said, okay, marriage is over. I'm going to spend the night. And I remember she came to me during that time and, was trying to work it out. And I was like, absolutely not. The night before you're literally spending the night at some guy's house and you come home the next day and trying to working it out, leave. And, so, it's been several months. Every day gets better. It really does. I think as I look over, I went to therapy, and I focused, not the same guy that I was with years ago. He moved on, but I focused on someone who was really was more holistic and dealt with PTSD and narcissistic abuse. And so he got it. He got it. It wasn't like I was trying to explain to him what was going on. So he's been a really good help. And I think the biggest thing is really listening to podcasts yours and YouTube, and to understand, because it really, I think of it like a gun, that it gives you the ammunition to protect yourself. Because I can tell you, if I didn't fully understand the mind fuck that I went through, I would have definitely projected my good nature, even though I went through hell with this person, my good nature onto this person, and I would underestimate what they're capable of. And that helped me gray rock and just keep my distance from her. And I think I can't stress that enough. You got to get them out of your life the best you can, so you have time to heal, to try to regroup and just heal yourself without their poison. Because everything they say, there's an agenda. There's in my case, it was just an angle, an agenda, and a greater picture. Even though it was short term, there was always an agenda, and you got to get yourself out of the situation. You really do. There's good days and bad, for sure.
How are your kids adjusting?
Well, that's okay, I guess. There's mom's house and dad's house. It does because now that's where the manipulation has kind of geared, like transitioned. Everything from the kids they wonder why, like why would mom leave? And mom said, oh, it's because money. Dad was, he was holding money from me. And so that's why they think that all, and I don't tell them any different. Those are adult conversations. It's not for children. And some other things, which I won't get into, but there was a situation where my identity got stolen recently, and I had to file a police report. My ex told my children that that I called the police on her, sat them down, and said how much of a bully I was, and so I've been very concerned about that because any way another example is anytime I would do something nice, we would go somewhere, just me and the kids, and she would say, well, he's just doing that. Because they're excited, to do stuff with Dad. We're doing a lot of fun things, and she would say, well, he's just doing that so you would like him better than me. So don't have fun with that because he's just trying to turn you guys against me. So now the kids are like weird if we do something fun because they're thinking I'm plotting against their mom. And so it kind of ruins, she's trying to ruin any good times that we have. From that standpoint. So I put our kids, I got a child therapist, and so we've been going there. We have another, and mom's involved with that. Now during the session, she's the mother of the year and talks, she also has a psychology degree as well to make the story funny, but just, oh, yes, just she's the mother of the year. But before we went to the therapy session, before we started it, she had to tell the kids, like, this isn't necessary. None of your other friends go, do they? Obviously, no, we don't think so. Well, why should you? This is just a waste of time. So it plants, there was some resentment from the kids going to this because mom made it out like they, this was something that, it's not necessary. Your dad's just making you guys go. And that's not a fun place to go as a kid, So, but during therapy, my ex-wife, she would act, she was just, just 100% in, totally involved, but would backdoor the whole process. Because she was concerned, I think, why I wanted the kids to go. Because I think she was concerned that some things would arise that would make her look bad. Instead of worrying about the health of our children, the mental health of her children, it would somehow things would come up that might jeopardize her facade, her fake facade of who she wants to project that she really is. And it's just, it'll be a battle. It'll be a battle for many, many years ahead for sure.
Well, Alex, I want to thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.
And being on the show today. We don't have a lot of males on the show, so for our male listeners out there, here is a representative. And because there's been me, there's been Pierre, I think we had David. I think that's all the males we've had on the show so far. So
I hope it helps.
So thank you for reaching out because this type of abuse doesn't affect women. It also happens to men. So thank you for reaching out and being part of the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I hope that we stay in touch and get a follow-up on what's going on with your life and everything in your situation in the future. Because I'm sure you're going to have some lessons for everyone when it comes to co-parenting and all that stuff, the more you learn about it. So,
absolutely.
So once again... So once again, thank you. And for everyone out there who is listening, have a good night. And that was my conversation with Alex. And I just want to thank Alex for being on the show once again. I thought his story had a lot of good lessons, a lot of good sound bites. He was a really good storyteller. And I just want to thank him for being on the show. I think that his episode will resonate with a lot of people and will help a lot of people out there. And because his messages were very, very clear. So just, again, thank you, Alex, for being on the show. And before I leave you, I just want to remind everyone about our fundraiser for Layla. Go to Narcissist Apocalypse, click on the fundraiser section, help send Layla to trauma therapy for a year. Also, our Facebook group, if you want to be part of that group, it's facebook.com/groups/narcissistapocalypse. It is different from our Facebook page. This one is a closed group, this group, and you don't have to worry about other people reading your messages. So join our group today. It's a great place to be, a good group of people that are there. And lastly, if you want to read a letter to your narcissist, we have a voicemail recorder on our website to record. Go to narcissistapocalypse.com. It's on the right side of the page. Always floating around, hard to miss. Click on that button that says send voicemail. Send your voicemail away. It records up to 5 minutes. Record as many times as you need. We're accumulating these letters to have a volume 2 of that episode. The quicker you send those in, the quicker we can do that episode. And now, that is it. Be well, and bye for now.